Hello, it's Rick Miracle again with another book review. A continuation of this book, Lost Star of Myth and Time by Walter Cruttenden. Probably saying it wrong. And this is part 4. Probably going to wind up with part 5 and part 6 before we're over with this project. There's just so much to know here. So much to talk about, contemplate, know about, think about. So let's just continue here. If I need to remind you, apparently we have 2 theories so far, and one is a second sun, a binary sun of our sun called Nemesis, and apparently this other sun, here's our sun, has a 3,600-year orbit, like a comet. And every 3,600 years, it actually intersects our orbit, and some of its planets intertwine in our orbit with our planets. That's theory number 1. The other theory is we have a twin Earth on the other side of the sun. And the sun, of course, is so huge compared to tiny little Earth that you can't see on the other side of the sun. And a planet, if it was in the exact opposite orbit, could very well hide there. So those are 2 theories, and I'm sure there's some other thoughts, but let's continue on with that. And also knowing that apparently they worship this other sun, and apparently they say that could be the home of the Anunnaki, the people who they say might have mixed their DNA with human DNA or some kind of animals of Earth DNA to make humans. And there's a fish guy there with a fish head, and the pine cone representing, I suppose, the pineal gland between the 2 lobes of your brain, which is supposed to be filled with water and crystals like a transmitter receiver. But as we have discussed previously, books like Eustace Mullins' books, Murder by Injection, the Rockefellers went through great lengths to put fluoride in all the water systems across the country in the early part of the 19th century, 20th century, and 1910, 1920. Why did he do that? And did he know that it would inhibit people's higher consciousness? Did he know that we were going to be ascending and returning to the golden age, getting closer to this other body, where we would have an awakening, and with the fluoride calcifying your pineal gland, you would not be able to have the higher communications with higher dimensions, higher consciousness. You would not be able to awaken. It would keep you asleep. Was that the plan? Is that the plan? So anyways, on page 178, in the Old Testament, we read, "Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion?" So apparently the Pleiades star system, they're saying, has some influence on our solar system. Or they're saying those 3 bands of Orion's belt, who can cause them to change their position? This powerful rhetoric questions implies that there is something beneficial, sweet influence, that emanates from a certain region or direction in space. It also conveys the idea that man cannot stop, canst thou bind, the celestial motion, orbit, that takes us away from this source, probably in the descending age. As our sun moves in a vast orbit around its companion star, it carries the Earth in and out of a magnetic or electromagnetic field that impacts the planet and life on a grand scale. As Earth moves into the field, a beneficial change occurs, and as the Earth moves out of the field, a disruptive and deteriorating effect occurs, according to this book. But can a distant star produce electromagnetic waves or a field or forces that are strong enough to affect life on Earth? Cutting-edge science says yes. So we all know the light spectrum is pretty broad. And we all know visible light is only that little sliver right there where you can see. You can't see all of this band, and you can't see all of this band. Your eyes can only detect the light in this small portion. So can there be things in the other realms of the band of light? Can there be things, spirits, other entities, that you can't see, but that can be there? Anyways, the same principle holds true with the Earth's annual orbit motion. During the 6 months when the northern and southern hemisphere move into a position to receive more light, an increase in photons per square inch, as we leave the winter solstice, we see a proportional increase in the activity and growth in that region. It's always amazing how trees, plants, seeds, they all know when winter's over and they start blooming. And if you happen to get a false spring where it gets really warm and everything starts blooming, buds everywhere, and then you get a super freeze, it can wreak havoc with the whole season, fooling the seeds, the DNA inside, with the warm or more light. And when the hemisphere receives less light during the opposite 6 months, we see a slowdown and decay. Clearly in the winter, the seeds all go into a hibernating state. Seeds, plants, frogs. Clearly the radiation from our closest star has a profound influence on life on Earth. Well, most of us know that. But if you apply that on a grander scale to another body in space that could be coming our way, you wonder what the effects are. Therefore, if we are in a binary system, it is not far-fetched to think that as the Earth moves in and out of the EM field, electromagnetic, generated by another star, this might have some effect on the cognitive processes of man and life on a grand scale. Well, I've been doing some homework, and I thought I'd share it with you. Apparently, in 1983, apparently the government knows stuff they don't want you to know, which a lot of us agree. But in 1983, they launched a infrared telescope into space. Apparently, the second sun might be a brown dwarf. It doesn't emit light like our sun does or stars do. But anyways, in the news, 1/30, 1983, clues get warm in the search for Planet X, 1983. And you can go look up this video. I highly recommend it. The real story of Planet X Nibiru. See it on the bottom down there? It's a pretty fascinating video by Marshall Masters of Yowza.com. And I'm not necessarily agreeing with him or disagreeing with him. the Colburn Bible apparently is a Bible about a religion out of Egypt, that area. And of course we all know the hieroglyphics in Egypt talk about another sun, something flying in the sky, as you can see here, and some kind of god there in the wings. And they have the hieroglyphics everywhere, as you can see. And we also know back then in those days they drew beings on the ground you could only see from the air. So what's up? Why in 1983 did they put this in the press? And then apparently they took it out of the press. Clues Get Warm in the Search for Planet X by John Noble Wilford. Evidence assembled in recent years has led several groups of astronomers to renew the search for the 10th planet. They're devoting more time to visual observations with the 200-inch telescope on Mount Palomar in California, the real story of Planet X. Apparently, this guy, Planet X and the Mysterious Death of Dr. Robert Harrington, Yowza.com, 22 May 2008. Dr. S. Harrington, the chief astronomer for the U.S. Naval Observatory, died before he could publicize the fact that Planet X is approaching our solar system. I'm just trying to look at some, gathering more data and looking at some other options here, other websites, other books, other documents, other press releases to find out what's up. Apparently, Dr. Harrington drew this sketch of what he thought the other solar system would do coming into our solar system. Apparently, it's supposed to be approaching on the same side as our sun, our Earth, with the relation to the sun. So the other planets and sun are going to approach our solar system on the same sun side as the Earth is. The location of Planet X. If Planet X exists at all, it is most likely to be found considerably lesser likelihood than it is in Taurus, that area. So look at that video. And apparently, here's the name of the planets. Nemesis is the star. Faraday is another planet. Helion is another planet. Nibiru is another planet. And here is the brown dwarf approaching our star as described on that website. So it just makes you wonder, is something coming? Well, in Marshall Masters' video, the one we just talked about, Yowza.com, Planet X, Marshall Masters said something that I had to do some research on. The American Meteor Society, you can see the link there on the bottom. American AMSmeteors.org. AMSmeteors.org. The American Meteor Society. So anyways, I decided to take a look, because if another solar system is closing in on our solar system, the outer band of that solar system would probably have significant more rocks, comets, asteroids swirling around it, like our solar system has, with the Kuiper belt, and outside of that, the Oort belt, that we have discussed previously in this particular series, number 56. So when I went on to the American Meteor Society website, which you can do also, and I searched reports for October 29 to November 29, because this isn't the end of December right now, so I just went back a month. This is December 30th. One more day, and then we have 2015. Will we ever see 2016? Or is something coming? Is another body going to intersect our system? Now just imagine if this star system with Nibiru has a debris field around it with asteroids. The closer it gets, one would expect more asteroids, fireballs. So anyways, to take the suspense out of this, why don't I just tell you? 10/29/2014 to 11/29/2014, 33 and 11, 3,311 reports. I just did this research on 12/29 yesterday. So this year, from October to November, 3,311. So then I went to do 2013, 10/29 to 11/29, and we had almost half that, 1631. Like I said, you can go on the American Meteor Society website yourself and do these reports. So 2014, for that same 30-day period, was double. So then I went, of course, to 2012, 10/29 to 11/29. And it's almost half that again, 888 reports. So what is this saying? The closer it gets, the increase in the bombardment of asteroids, fireballs, comets. Then I went to 2011, 10/29, 11/29, 360, half it again. Please go do this yourself. Do not believe me. I didn't believe I would get this kind of report. Then I went to 2010, and I got about similar to 2011, 343. And then I went to 2009, and I got 19 reports. So there you have it. Go to the American Meteor Society and look that up. See for yourself there is an increase in asteroids being sighted and reported by people on Earth. So let's get back to the book here. Second son. Dr. Hunt, now this isn't an experiment with electromagnetic energy. Placed subjects in the room, gave them certain tasks to perform, and depleted virtually all electromagnetism from the space. So he put subjects in a cage with wire around it. That's called a Faraday cage. And so they were depleted of any electromagnetic energy. The results were anything but expected. The subjects burst into tears, sobbed, and experienced an experience unlike these people had ever endured. Although they reported that they were not sad. Their bodies responded as though they were threatened, as they might be if the electromagnetic environment which nourished them was gone. Conversely, when the field was increased beyond normal levels, the subject's thinking became clear and they reported an expansion of consciousness. More recently, in practical application, some doctors have begun to use both light therapy and exposure to high-density negative ions in the air to treat a form of depression known as seasonal affective disorder called SAD. Continuing on here, page 188. Currently, there is a large movement in Japan among consumers toward products that produce negative ions, largely for their healthy effects. Page 189. In addition to Hitachi, companies like Toshiba and Mitsubishi Matsushita have released a multitude of products from air conditioners to hair dryers that produce negative ions, and the trend shows no hint of slowing down. As science learns more, we see increasing evidence that things once thought to be inert or not deserving of attention, like a subtle change in light or ion concentration, can and do have effects on our sense of well-being. Witness Dr. Hunt's research, which noted profound effects on test subjects caused by variations in the magnetic field within the mu room. That would be the room with the Faraday cage that blocked out electromagnetic energy. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. In the last few years, other researchers from around the world have begun confirming some of these effects in their studies. If changes in the magnetic field, amount of radiation or ionization in the air can affect individuals so profoundly on a small scale in a short period of time, as shown by the work of Hunt, Terman, and others, what would happen if these changes were to occur on a global scale over thousands of years? It is only logical to hypothesize that the effects would be significant. So what is it about the human brain that could allow us to be affected in such a dramatic way? New research is showing that the way we cognate, process thought, may be much more ethereal than the old idea of rudimentary chemical connections between neurons. The human brain produces its own very weak but very organized magnetic field, one that resonates at similar frequencies to that of the Earth. It is here that a connection may exist, one more profound than we realize. Sorry about my reading sometimes. Anyway, some of the more interesting evidence presented in favor of a semi-field theory is contained in a series of studies on the individuals using transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS. In TMS, an electrical current is run through a coil placed on the scalp of a given subject. This coil generates a magnetic field that penetrates the scalp, influences nerve patterns. The side effects on the human test subjects were fascinating and produced a wide range of cognitive disturbances, including modification of reaction time, suppression of visual perception, speech arrest, disturbance of eye movement, mood changes. They aren't always all bad. Now, with that in mind, I have another thing I'd like to talk about. In the sky spraying, if you go outside and pay attention, you will see these ripples. That's electromagnetic energy, because the stuff that they're spraying, they say, is heavy metals, and just like metal filings on a cloth, that held tight, and you put a magnet underneath it, the filings would move. If you put a radio frequency underneath it, they would all show the sine wave of the wavelength frequency. So if you look up in the sky and you see that sometimes something looks like this, it looks like electromagnetic energy is being directed through that stuff in the sky. And we know they have it as a weapon, weather modification, and experimental projects. How far have they been going to find out what it does to people on a grand scale? Knowing that they can send some frequencies to create a harmonious, happy group of people, and then they could just adjust the frequency dial to be different than the normal, healthy human, one that would make the human excited, depressed, sad, even suicidal, vicious, angry, riotous. And they have been installing these systems all over the world. Can you imagine they can just control the mood, create friction, distress, fear, anxiety, aim these things anywhere they want? In the Midwest, like this picture shows, the stuff they put in the sky is a little bizarre. It has different colors sometimes, the sky spraying. Can the combination of the sky spraying and the HARP system, the radio frequency transmitters, cause insane, crazy weather? They have floating transmitter receivers. Imagine attacking a country and causing everybody to get fatigued, irritated, stressed, freaking out, scared. All you'd have to do is know the frequency you want to send. Anywhere you want to send it in the world. They're studying this stuff like crazy lately. There's plenty of documentation. So what all does this have to do with another planet possibly coming into the system, another star? Where did they get all this technology when they say they learned a lot of technologies from when Hitler was in Germany from aliens or some kind of beings they were in contact with, which Nikola Tesla said he would see visions and apparitions and hear things in his head. So how many HARP systems do they have? Can they do this? Could they take down the Twin Towers with a beam like that? Would you ever see it? I've seen this in the sky before. Something's going on, some kind of weird patterns, and they're spraying like this in many places, including here in the mountains of North Carolina. The High Frequency Active Aurora Research Program, HARP. Are we in danger? Do planes actually fly around in circles like this normally? Of course not. Why are they spending all our tax dollars on building all these transmitters? All over the world. So HARP systems and chemtrails in Sweden. It's a whole combined warfare system. Can they control the weather? Just asking questions. I mean, it is our tax dollars. All right, back to the book. So we know that the frequencies do affect humans and can take us in either direction. Cosmic influence, 195. Meditation, higher age technology. A lot of people are into this. That's in this book. So when you are, I like to ask people, you know, when you say you're talking to a spirit, you're talking to your master, a master. How do you know it's a good person or a bad person? Entity, spirit, demon. You don't know. There's plenty of warnings in some of the previous videos that I have done here, and books talking about protecting yourself from these spirits. And of course we know Jesus cast out in a dozen cases demons out of people, and we know that there are priests that do exorcism. We know about possession. How far does it go? Gene Roddenberry of the Star Trek series used to go into a meditative state to get the storyline for the shows. A lot of Hollywood's bragged about that. In Hollywood and San Francisco, isn't the Church of Satan the fastest growing church in the USA? We see all the programming on TV. It's seemingly satanic with all the football halftime shows where everybody's doing the pyramid and the devil sign, including Bush, Obama, the Pope. I don't know who has not been doing the devil sign. I don't do the devil sign. I was just showing you. All right. Page 198. Myths about the Pleiades abound. All of them similar, from the Greek legend of Zeus and the Seven Sisters to the Kiowa Indian story and the Seven Maidens. Pleiades star system has 7 stars. Historians have still not addressed why myth and folklore from entirely separate ancient cultures relates to the same story about a constellation with 7 stars when everyone can see there are only 6 stars visible for you to see. Perhaps the most amazing reference of all to the Pleiades was found in a cave, Grotte la Croix in France. I'm sure I said that wrong. There, carefully painted on the upper wall, is a magnificent drawing of a bull. Just over its right shoulder sits the Pleiades constellation, exactly positioned to represent the correct relationships in the sky, just like so many of the other Mithric bas-reliefs. Mithric, remember that. The dating of the cave is conservatively put at an astounding 15,000 BC before Christ. So in a cave 15,000 years before Christ, so that would be 2,000 years after Christ, so that's 17,000 years back. They've got drawings in caves with the Pleiades star system with all 7 stars, when you can only see 6. And it was part of the Mithric bas-relief. So what is the Mithric? And remember, this series is Freemasonry and Satanism. And we're talking about the worship of a second son, some called Marduk and other names, Nemesis. But let's, again, investigate Pleiades and Mithric for a second. Because this is Freemasonry and Satanism, the worship of Lucifer, praise of Lucifer, Satan. I thought I would look up Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike's Bible, the Bible for the Scottish Rite Freemasonries. Anyways, on page 451, Theophilus says that the Osiris of Egypt was supposed to be dead or absent 50 days of each year. Lindsay thinks that this was because the Sabrian priests were accustomed to see in the lower latitudes of Egypt and Ethiopia the first of the chief stars of the husbandman boots sink beneath the western horizon and then begin their lamentations. to hold forth the signal for others to weep, when their prolific virtues were supposed to be transferred to the vernal sun, before the color of the vernal equinox had passed into Aries, and after it had left Aldebaran, and the Hades and the Pleiades were for 7 or 8 centuries the leading stars of the Sabrine year, and thus we see on the monument the disc and the crescent symbol. I thought I would just take a little quick review for apparently the aliens from Pleiades systems, the Palladians. Here are some of the pictures. If you go up, look up Pleiades, and on the Yahoo image site, you will find these images. You got a naked girl here, and a lot of angel-seeming people. These are your pictures of your Palladians. So apparently this is part of the religion of the New Age. The 7 stars. Apparently, Billy here, popular in UFO culture, Billy Myers, was communicating with some aliens who said they were Palladians. Is that true? Here's Billy Myers and one of the Palladians. So we are reviewing that book, The Lost Star. I just thought I would make a point of people who say they have been talking to. Is this a representation of a Palladian? Looks like Miley Cyrus. Here's a symbol we see at the doctor's office, the snakes and the pole. Back to Morals and Dogma. The Bible for the Freemasons, page 453, the milk-white bull with golden horns, led on the newborn year. We see in the neck of Taurus the Pleiades, and in his face the Hades, which Graecia, from their showering names, and of whom the brilliant of Aldebaran is the chief, while to the southwest is the most splendid of all the constellations, Orion, with Beltugox, I'm saying that wrong, in his right shoulder, Bellatrix to his left shoulder, Regal to the left foot, in his belt the 3 stars known as the 3 kings, now as the Yard and L. Orion ran the legend, persecuted the Pleiades, and to save them from his fury. Further on down it says, the Pleiades were sometimes called Virginia, or virgins of spring, because the sun entered this cluster of stars in the season of blossoms. Their Syrian name was Salkuth, or Salkuth-Beneth, derived from the Chaldean words signifying to speculate or to observe. So there you have it. You got Pleiades mentioned in here. You got the Palladi aliens. You got Pallades mentioned there in the Lost Star. It just all combines together to be interesting. Well, I decided to look up another word, Mithras. We discussed Mithras, the first reference in this book, Morals and Dogma, in the last video. There's like about 30 of them. This is my second reference I've looked up with Mithras. Let's see what it has to do with the Lost Star, or the worship of a lost star or binary star. The worship of Mithras, page 424, Morals and Dogma, Prince of the Tabernacle. What's the Prince of the Tabernacle would be the 24th degree in Freemasonry. So anyways, in the 24th degree, this is what you would learn as a Freemason. The worship of Mithras commenced to prevail there under Trajan. I think that's a city or a leader. Hadrian prohibited these mysteries on account of the cruel scenes represented in their ceremony, for human victims were immolated therein, and the events of futurary looked in their palpitating entrails. Oh my God, so they were, I guess their guts were split open, and they looked into the future by examining their entrails, spilling their guts onto the ground and seeing how they fell out. They reappeared in greater splendor than ever under Commodus, who with his own hand sacrificed a victim to Mithras, and they were still more practiced under Constantine. Isn't Constantine the one who brought the Christian religion to the Rome? And his successors, when the priests of Mithras were found everywhere in the Roman Empire, and the monuments of his worship appeared even in Britain, caves were consecrated to Mithras, in which were collected a multitude of astronomical emblems, and cruel tests were required to the initiates. The Persians built no temples, but worshipped upon the summits of the hills in enclosures of unhewn stones. They abominated images and made the sun and fire emblems of the deity. The Jews borrowed this from them and represented God as appearing to Abraham in a flame of fire, and to Moses as a flame of Horeb and on the Sinai. With the Persians, Mithras, typified in the sun, was the invisible deity, the lost star, the parent of the universe, the mediator. Okay, so we've examined Pleiades and Mithras is in the Freemasonry Bible book by Albert Pike, getting back to Lost Star. Perhaps the most amazing reference to the Pleiades was found in a cave in Grottes de Lasquax, French word, in France. There, carefully painted on the upper wall in a magnificent drawing of a bull, just over its right shoulder sits the Pleiades constellation system, exactly positioned to represent their correct relationship in the sky. Just like so many of the other later Mithric bas-reliefs, the dating of the cave is conservatively put at an astounding 15,000 years BC, 17,000 years in the past. So apparently here's a picture of the Pleiades star system in the cave in France. And we know that the Earth has a surrounding magnetic field. So with that, that's enough for this book right now. I think I'll end this program with this book. It's a very small book. How many pages? 51 pages. But I'd like to read you a little bit from it and end this video, because what we're discussing here is the lost planet. Is there something coming, and is our government preparing? Is this some kind of mystical, spiritual thing? Is it real? Is Nibiru on its way? There are many videos on YouTube. Are some people telescoping this other star with the planets surrounding it? Here's an old mummy from Egypt area that looks like one of the aliens. Makes one ponder and about things that, you know, who would have known about any of this stuff? I wouldn't have, if I weren't doing the research. They had the elongated skulls they're finding all over the world. Even on some of the older buildings, they have these characters that look like that in the stone. The hieroglyphics in some of the monuments found in Egypt with the dog's head for the dog star Sirius. So let's read a little bit from this book that W.M. Rabalu from Brazil. I guess this is an English translation. And here we have the sun, you can see on the cover of the book, and then the incoming red star, and Earth, of course. And here's the name, two names, the red planet, or Herculumbus. Herculumbus. Contents, preface, Herculumbus or red planet, nuclear tests in the ocean, extraterrestrials, life on Venus, life on Mars, interplanetary spaceships, the death, Astro unfolding, concluding remarks, 2003, second edition. He lived from 1926 to the year 2000, so I'm curious when the book first got published. Looks like it might have got published after he died. Anyways, humanity is captivated by the predictions of those who we wrongly call scientists, who do nothing but fill humanity with lies and distort the truth. We're going to talk about Herculumbus, or red planet, which is approaching Earth, according to this guy from Brazil. According to the scientists, they have weighed it, and they say it is so many tons and has certain diameter as if it were a child's toy. But this is not the case. Herculumbus, or red planet, is 5 or 6 times larger than Jupiter. It is a gigantic mass which cannot be stopped or deflected. The Earth's inhabitants believe it is a toy. But in fact, it is the beginning of the end for the planet Earth. It has already arrived. It has already arrived. The other worlds in our solar system know this, and they are making every effort to help us avoid this catastrophe. However, nobody will be able to stop it. This is the punishment we deserve to put an end to so much wickedness. I state that Herculumbus is a creation like our world. It is inhabited by its own humanity, which is also perverse like our own. Each planet, each world has its own humanity. Scientists should not believe that they can attack and disintegrate Herculumbus. Its inhabitants also have weapons which would respond and eliminate us instantly. If they are attacked, they will defend themselves, and the end will come faster. Within the to and fro movement of life, everything returns to its beginnings or to its end. The same thing happened with lesser intensity on the continent of Atlantis. However, in this return of events, our planet will not be able to bear the other planet passing very close without breaking into pieces. This is what the scientists ignore. They believe that they are very powerful and their weapons are capable of destroying this giant planet. They are very mistaken. In the short time, the destruction of the famous Tower of Babel they have built will take place. They have already finished it, and negative consequences are now coming for the whole of humanity. The scientists can deny this with their theories, as they are doing now and have done before. They distort the truth because of pride, conceit, and ambition for power. They will laugh like braying donkeys because they are not able to measure the consequences of what they have done. They have placed nuclear bombs all over the planet in order to control it, without considering what God and His justice, considering that God and His justice exist and will crush everything. You cannot talk to beasts about God because they bray and deny Him through their actions. They believe they are gods, and they are not. The false so-called powers that exist today will become ruined economically as well as morally. Money will disappear within a very short time. Hunger and misery will put an end to them. They will not be able to endure a single violent shake. They will remain paralyzed by fear and terror. Then they will truly realize that the divine justice exists to punish evil. At present, the whole world is distracted looking for money at any cost. This is precisely what happened in Atlantis, where the god of that epoch was money, religious represented as a golden calf. Alright, in the same way of this epoch, money is the god. This is totally wrong. The rich, who now brag so much power, will be the most unfortunate. Having a lot of money will gain them nothing when there is no one to sell to them and no one who buys from them. They will kneel and weep when begging for a plate of food. They will howl like dogs. When Herculaneum comes closer to earth and is set next to the sun, deadly epidemics will begin to spread over the entire planet. Neither doctors nor official science will know what sort of illness they are or how to cure them. They will be powerless in the face of the epidemics. Life will begin to disappear from our planet. At that point, humanity will have to eat its own corpses because of the overwhelming hunger and unbearable heat. The moment of tragedy and darkness will come, tremors, earthquakes, and tidal waves. Human beings will become mentally unbalanced because they will not be able to eat or sleep. In the face of danger, they will throw themselves into the abyss in masses and completely mad. The race will disappear, no life will be left on the planet, and the earth will sink into the ocean. This is because humanity has reached the highest level of depravity. It already wants to pass on the evil to other planets, but this will not be allowed. Can you imagine if we did get off this earth and we went into found another planet, like America, for example, and there were Indian natives living on this other planet? Will we be selling the scalps for $10 again? Scientists in the whole world are full of panic, and even before the destruction has started. However, the fear of God does not exist in any inhabitant on the earth. They believe that they are lords and masters of life, and that they are powerful, but now they are going to see that certainly there is divine justice which judges us according to our deeds. While I affirm in this book is a prophecy, what I affirm in this book is a prophecy that will be fulfilled very shortly because I have evidence about the end of the planet. I know it. I am not scaring but warning because I am distressed about this poor humanity. These events will not wait, and there is no time to waste on illusionary things. Oh my God. So I think I'll save some more of this book for the next video and talk about one more thing. So there you have it. Here I am reviewing this book, doing some research, and it just gets more bizarre. So post on the internet, Planet X or Nibiru and Trees That Bleed by Wade Venden. Go look it up and read it. Trees That Bleed Bleeding trees, the harbinger of Planet X. August 11, 2014. And as with the increase in blood-colored water, I don't know if anybody's noticed that in the news, at various locations worldwide, trees that appear to bleed when cut may also be a harbinger of the approach of a massive, highly magnetic interplanetary body that is approaching our solar system in its orbital trajectory around our sun. I just read books and study documents and report. This is either true, which we need to prepare for, or it's false, and they're going to do a false flag and cause these things to happen with HARP-like systems and other weaponry, which again we need to prepare for. So true or not, Houston, we have a problem. The old Apollo spacecraft days. If this theory is true, then an increase in blood red water is caused by this planetary's body, Earth's, magnetic pull, or the incoming gigantic red star, Planet X, Nibiru, Herculumbus. Anyways, the blood red water is caused by this planetary's body's magnetic pull, which shifts iron oxide from the soil up into the water table. So assuming there's iron under the water lakes, rivers, and this incoming gigantic body is magnetic, and it attracted the water up, iron in the water would turn it red, maybe? So it would draw the shifts iron oxide from the soil up into the water table and later into bodies of water on the surface. Trees would draw red water from the water table infiltrated with iron oxide. Now remember, us humans have red blood with iron in it. The apocalypse of Urza is still considered to be conical. Gotta drink some water here, can't speak. Although it is no longer included in biblical scriptures, it appears to predict a time when trees will bleed, as well as a curious mention of fish kills, and blood shall trickle forth from the wood, and the stone utter its voice. The people shall be in commotion, the outgoings of the stars shall change. Page 1 of this document. Go look it up and read it. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. If the inevitable is coming, what can you do? One, like the Bible says, believe in God. Try to obey the 10 Commandments. And as a Christian, of course, it teaches us if you believe in Jesus, that he came here on earth, you will be saved. So I encourage everybody to remember that. Look at their own biblical teachings. And remember, they can only kill the physical body. They can't kill your soul. And what you do if distress comes, catastrophe, you're accountable for what you do. So I tell this story to some of my friends. Here's a guy and his wife who are prepped, called preppers. And they've stored up food. They realize that something seems to be looming. And so after the catastrophe, an incoming comet, I don't know. But anyways, then they see coming up their driveway a husband and wife and a couple kids. And the wife says to the husband, "Get your shotgun. Tell them to go away. We don't have enough food for them." And so there is the trying to get him to go away, but the husband and the wanting to feed his wife and 2 kids forges forward towards the door and says, "You gotta help us." And the guy gets scared and he pulls the trigger and he shoots the husband and then the wife and the kids. Think about that. Just to live a few more days, he killed people. So a few days later, some hooligans show up, a whole crowd of thugs, and they storm the front door and they kill the husband and wife who had stored up some food. And then they get up to the pearly gates. And then they go before God, and God says, "Why did you kill those people?" And of course you have to be punished for that. So just to live 2 more days, they sentenced themselves to what? Hades? Wherever you go when you do something like that? I'm just saying, if a catastrophe comes, people are better off to help each other. And what you do matters. What we all do. I'll share my last can of Campbell's soup, if I have to, and leave it in God's hands. Hence this series is Freemasonry and Satanism, because apparently the evil people are ruling our world, and they have been teaching the people to fight for the almighty dollar and look out for themselves and not care about the homeless and the needy. It's a vicious world with vicious TV programming and vicious movies and vicious murder and mayhem. And Bill Gates and other people like that are making billions, and the prince over there of Britain says he'd like to come back as a virus so he could kill everybody. We live in some kind of twilight zone, and who knows what's going to happen. So anyways, back to this document, Blood in the Water. Something interesting about the Kaaba at Mecca, where all those people at Mecca go and pray and walk about around a big black stone. Looks like this. That's all people walking around that stone. And if you take a magnet and you put iron filings around it, it looks like that. Is that a coincidence? Was there something to that black stone? Which, by the way, in the meditation room in the United Nations, which is full of occult symbolism, the New Age that's taken over the world, forcing the New Age agenda, the gay agenda, and Agenda 21, taking away property rights, trying to disarm Americans. What's going on? Now I ask you, is there anything about the first picture which could be accidental in any way? It is just by some strange coincidence that the Islamic pilgrims in the first photo are arranged in precisely the same way as the iron filings arranged themselves around the magnet. The mysteries of God are strange indeed. The redness in the water is not caused by algae, he says. I'm not reading all this, just parts of it. It is caused by iron, the same chemical element that gives blood its color. And that becomes important in a moment. Once the iron floods into the water, then it is attacked and consumed by iron bacteria. Bacteria is known to feed on iron, thus you get your Bacterius phronoxylus and Leptospiraean ferroxinus, some technical medical terms I can't say. You can read it for yourself. Look up this stuff. So they're saying that possibly this big red dwarf star is coming, pulling the iron filings up from the ground into the water. A magnet is doing it, says TTTML. A massive one. Iron is highly magnetic, so it should be one of the first materials to be affected by the presence of a titanic magnet. Planet X or Nibiru. Herculaneum or the Red Star. Planet X. What is it called? It is also the most abundant material on Earth by mass. For this reason, TTML believes, whoever TTML is, that it is being pulled up to the surface of the Earth by the approach of the mother of all magnets, which has been known by many names throughout history. The Destroyer, Nibiru, Wormwood, Nemesis, the Daystar, Planet X, the Planet of the Crossing, among others. So how big is this magnet? It is at least 3 times as big in circumference as Jupiter, and infinitely more dense as it is thought to be a brown dwarf star. My mouth gets dry, I speak poorly. It is highly magnetic, certainly magnetic enough to pull some grains of iron proud of the surface of the earth. There is another possible cause for the increased presence of iron. Nibiru is theorized, this is the planet around the big red star, to be surrounded by a vast iron oxide cloud, an envelope that trails it, but it is also pushed out ahead of it, as it makes its way through the solar system. If this is true, then the iron oxide dust should infiltrate our atmosphere and reveal itself in various ways, such as reddened water, reddish skies, red rain, and the settling out of red dust. One of the first visible signs of this encounter was the reddening of the Earth's surface by a fine dust of rusty pigment. In lake, sea, river, this pigment gave a bloody coloring to the water. Because of these particles of ferrous and other soluble pigment, the world turned red. That's in the book called Worlds in Collision. If TTTML is right about this, then the increase in the occurrence of red water, freak water, earthquakes, volcanism, sinkholes, fish die-offs, flooding, and drought all seem to be telltales heralding the approach of an object that was worshipped by the ancients, out of fear and its effects. I would think in the hopes that when it returned again, it would be more kind than the last time. And it will return if it is a binary twin to our sun, but maybe their worship was misplaced. They worshipped an era, the malignant horned star and her escorts, Colburn Bible. And notice this. This is the picture of what they think it looks like. And then the symbols, as you see there, for Chevrolet and other symbols you see everywhere in the Egyptian hieroglyphics. Car symbols, emblems. But this brings us back to the first picture of Mecca. The object of praise at that site housed with the Kabbalah is called the Black Stone. Is it the holy object they bow to when they pray each day? So what is that black stone? Is it the lost star? Big, gigantic black star, dwarf star? Here's what the black stone of Kabbalah looks like, it says here. Alright, Islamic tradition holds that it fell from heaven. Is it possible that this stone fell during a previous passage of the brown dwarf star, the huge magnet in the sky, and that this is why the ritual at Mecca resembles nothing more closely than the behavior of iron filings surrounded by an irresistible pull of a magnet? Kind of makes you wonder. And the big black stone in the meditation room at the United Nations that I keep talking about is promoting all this satanic Luciferian things. Is this a symbol of the return of an Antichrist of Lucifer? Kind of looks like horns on something. Back to the issue of red water. I've heard other believers out there say that the water turning red points to biblical prophecy, such as Revelation 8:8. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. I was never convinced myself because the water was not blood per se. It was only red like blood. Anyways, recently I think this happened. A river in China. Could some planetary body magnetic effect be affecting us now? Could it have pulled metal filings up from the ground into the water? But in the view presented here, it is a bit more compelling that it is in alignment with prophecy, at least as a foreshadow, because of the chemical in blood that makes it red is the same chemical that turning these waters red. Iron. Blood, after all, is mostly water, 92% by volume. Therefore, it is going out on a limb to say that these waters are turning to blood. When blood drops upon the earth, the destroyer will appear, and mountains will open up and belch forth fires and ashes. Trees will be destroyed and all living things engulfed. Waters will be swallowed up by the lands, and the seas will boil. The heavens will burn brightly and redly. There will be a copper hue over the face of the land, followed by a day of darkness in the Cobran Bible. Go look this document up. Don't believe me. I'm just reporting what I found. You have to make up your own mind. Moreover, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold. Oh my God, the sun's going to get 7 times hotter. As the light of 7 days, and the day of the Lord bindeth up the breach of his people, and healeth the stroke in their wounds. So remember, if Jesus, you believe he came and walked on the earth, was sent by God, and you really feel bad for things that you've done and you want to be a better person, I think it's a good time to say, talk to God. This is enough to wake you up. Enough to wake me up. I've been kind of awake for the last 10 years. When I started investigating what the heck is going on with my business and all the customers I was visiting, and people losing their homes and bank accounts, and this was going on across the world, I said somebody somewhere is causing economic destruction everywhere. And of course I believe now that I've discovered who it is. It's basically the elite people who worship Satan and Lucifer, the Illuminati, the Zionists, the Rosicrucians and Freemasons and Satanists and Hollywood and occultists and Kabbalah. And of course a lot of people in the lower portions of those groups don't know what's going on. So don't have anybody say, Rick, you don't like Jewish people. If you go on Zionism images on the internet, you will see that there are many Jewish people with signs and protesting all this Zionism. God-fearing, God-believing, regular Jewish Orthodox people. They know what these world supremacist, New World Order, Zionism, Illuminati, banksters, Bill Gates type CEOs, all the symbols on their cars and their businesses with the triangles, and the TV shows, and Modern Family, and trying to change the society of the world into a decadent, satanic one, to be ready for the punishment maybe of this big planet X? I don't know. I believe we are spiritual beings in biological bodies, and I believe that when you do leave this planet, nobody gets off alive, that you have to account for your actions. It's like that guy and his wife protecting their little storage of food and living 2 more days to lose their souls to Hades. That doesn't make sense. Alright, so I'm not trying to be preachy here. It is what it is, and that's what these videos, Freemasonry and Satanism, is all about. To get to the root of the problem. And what is the root of the problem? Who are these people that are in the Morals and Dogma Albert Pike's books? Isis and Osiris and the baby Horus with the all-seeing eye, which is represented by the eye on the dollar bill. I don't make this stuff up. Here's ISIS, and why are they calling that group over there in the Middle East now? ISIS is going to attack America. Is this making sense to you yet? See the brown dwarf star right there? Anyways, the kill shot, gateway to oblivion. I'm almost done here. It will be reminiscent of the Carrington effect of 1859. Named after the astronomer who observed it, Richard Carrington. This was a massive CME. Don't they talk about that in the news a lot lately? A gigantic blast of energy from the sun taking out our electronics. It was a massive CME that made a direct hit on planet Earth in 1859, and it is said that if this same event were to happen today, it would destroy modern civilization by frying all our technological hardware. Back then, the effects were lessened due to the fact that modern circuitry was yet years in the making, but it did produce the largest geomagnetic storm ever recorded. The aurora displays were said to be stunning, and telegraph pylons even threw off some sparks. Some telegraph systems continue to send and receive messages despite having been disconnected from their power supplies. Here is what documentarian on YouTube said the Ed Dames kill shot event had to say. Remote viewers saw a series of solar flares that are so powerful that they penetrated into Earth's atmosphere and destroyed global communications. So the government is into remote viewing. They have seen the future, so some of these remote viewers say. This one's Tim Reifat's book. We've gone over these in my previous videos. You notice everything seems to connect the dots here, what I'm doing. Which, obviously, everything would be connected. There isn't two different worlds, there's only one world. And they're building all the underground facilities, stocking up with food and wine and all the things they're going to need for when the kill shot comes and the waters turn blood red and the sun gets 7 times hotter. Oh my God. So anyways, the remote viewers saw a series of solar flares that were so powerful they penetrated into Earth's atmosphere, destroying global communications and heating up regions of the world to such an extreme that it would cause the death of billions. Our star, man's source of life, would now become our greatest enemy. The video is called The End Remote Viewing Predictions. Go look at that. The End Remote Viewing Predictions. So again, I'm not trying to freak anybody out here. I'm just trying to say, why is the government doing some things and preparing for something, moving all the military and major offices of agriculture and other research things to the Midwest, away from the coast. And why are they not alerting the people? If they're moving, why are they have this seed storage unit in Norway, the seed bank, and they were really going quickly at it, so this thing must be looming in the not too distant future. Power grids, when they go down, folks, when the sun takes down the power grids, it's done it before. This time it won't go back up. It will be months and months, if not years, to get power grids back up and running. There's going to be no power. So people ought to do their own homework. Find out if they need to be thinking about having water supplies and food supplies. Again, I'm not a fearmonger. I'm just saying, I'm reporting what I'm researching in books and documents and trying to make sense out of things, and it's ancient hieroglyphics have these things. What are we supposed to believe? Are we supposed to be ignorant and not ask questions? The kill shots effect, and these will come and go, but the massive damage, first of all, will be communications. Communication satellites, military satellites as well will go down. Not so much for satellite TV. These things will be fried. Anybody in space, whether you're inside or that little lead shield or on the space station or not, you're fried. You're in bad shape. That's what they say is coming there. So what did the remote viewer say? People were panicking and running up and down in terror, confusion, and in a state of utter disbelief. And they got this mysterious symbol here in Colorado airport. This horse with the red eye, is that supposed to signify the incoming Planet X? In Colorado's where they have all the underground facilities, where all the elites are going to go hang out during this event. I don't think they're going to survive. We'll wake up soon and see this. There's another picture on this document. Tribulation now. Well, all this, if you've ever seen a volcano, you see the lightning as the thing erupts, all the debris flying out and all the crackling of lightning. Will we have lightning like crazy in the sky everywhere? Hitting the ground everywhere? How crazy will it be? We've seen this picture I've showed you. So there's my continuation of the book, The Lost Star. We've got a little ways to go. This is video number 4. Might wind up doing up to 6 videos for number 56. With more, I have more evidence and more other documentation. We could possibly read a little more from that little book we looked at. So what is happening? Is something coming? Did the Egyptians know about it? Did they worship it? Is it real spiritual communication with some people? Is it the UFOs that have been sighted, and the aliens, the little grays and the reptilians? Do they live on this planet coming with this sun? Are they returning? Makes you wonder. Thank you for watching my video. And again, it is a time to be, any time is. You never know when you might get in a car wreck or die. You know, you should have your house in order. Try to be a good person. Share with others. I know the whole world right now, everybody wants to pay their expensive mortgages and rents and car payments and cell phones and cable TV and expensive food. So everybody is preoccupied with money. Think about it. It's an obsession. The kids need money. The wife needs money. It's a problem. It's not a very peaceful, enjoyable paradise we live in right now. Everything is being pushed to the limits. And so everybody's distracted, not paying attention to something that they very well maybe should be paying attention to. Anyways, that's what I'm summarizing and theorizing from all this research. Something is certainly amiss. Thank you for watching my videos. Rick Miracle reporting.